welcome back to the OneForceWeaponry YouTube channel. Today we have a little bit of a different video for you guys, some more legislative-y stuff. So not quite the normal video you're used to seeing me do, but I thought this was an important video to keep our customers and our YouTube watchers kind of updated on what's going on, what this means for us, and what we're going to be doing going forward. So if any of you have been watching the news recently, I'm sure you've seen that the big, beautiful bill was signed into law on the 4th of July, July 4th, 2025. And part of the big, beautiful bill, obviously that was a very big and expansive bill. It was over 900 pages long, lots of different kind of facets of that. But the one I want to talk about today, and the one that kind of affects us the most, would be H.R.1, or the Hearing Protection Act, which originally had to do with suppressors. So originally it started out as just suppressors, trying to deregulate these from the NFA, meaning that you would not have to do a Form 4, there would be no $200 tax stamp for them, you would just have to do a regular NICS background check like buying a firearm. That's what it originally started out as. That passed in the House, but when it moved to the Senate, it underwent some changes. The first actually being a really cool one was the Shorts Act, or the Short Amendment, something like that. I'll remember it eventually. But it had to do with adding SBRs, SBSs, and AOWs to H.R.1. So it wasn't just suppressors anymore. It was short-barreled rifles, short-barreled suppressors, and any other weapons. So that was an awesome addition to H.R.1. But then something a little different happened in the Senate. Was the Senate parliamentarian actually tried to have H.R.1 removed due to the Byrd rule, which the Byrd rule has to do when something doesn't have to do with the federal budget or federal spending, which it was voted on and approved that it did not have to do with the federal budget or federal spending, even though it does have to do with income to the federal government. But, you know, to each their own. They do their jobs, I do mine. So it was originally, the Senate parliamentarian tried to have that removed. It was voted on, all that fun stuff. But some of the officials that have been working on this did have a backup plan. So even though that original kind of idea was removed to have all of those items deregulated, they had a backup plan to just be a $0 tax stamp. So you still would have to do the Form 4, you would still have to have an eForms account, you would still have to do fingerprints, a photo, all that fun stuff, but it's a $0 tax stamp instead of a $200 tax stamp. And if you've been reading up on this at all, you know that that is the version that was passed and that was signed into law. So signed into law does not mean it is enacted right away. Signed into law just means that it was signed in, it will go in eventually. So with H.R.1, this, as far as I am aware of, or at this moment of us filming this video, it will be enacted January 1st of 2026. So we still have a good 5 or 6 months before this actually is going to go into effect. I have seen some rumblings online about some different loopholes and things you can go to there to maybe have this enacted quicker, but I'm not super familiar on those and I don't know how true those are. So I'm just sticking to what I have done my research on. So like we just talked about, now SBRs, suppressors, SBSs, and AOWs, they're not completely deregulated from the NFA because you still have to have your eForms account, fill out your Form 4, do all that fun stuff, but you don't have to pay an extra $200 for the tax stamp per item. It's a $0 tax stamp now, which is awesome. Obviously, I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed not to have them completely deregulated, but I still count this as a win, in my opinion, because it's still an advancement for 2A rights for the community. So another key point that I kind of want to talk about that I've seen some rumblings of online would be part of the Firearms Protection Act of 1986. So in the Firearms Protection Act, they talk about how no federal or state government can have a firearms registry. And a firearms registry obviously is a list or a database of guns that I own, guns that you own, guns that anyone owns. Besides, obviously, the state and federal government, they need to have a list of those. But shortly after the NFA was enacted, it was challenged because people were concerned it was not constitutional because it was keeping a list of certain firearms or certain things that people owned. And the reason it was ruled as constitutional because they weren't keeping a list of firearms or things that people owned. They were keeping a list of who had paid taxes with that $200 tax stamp. Obviously, now that it has been removed from a $200 tax stamp to a $0 tax stamp, that's kind of a gray area now, because you're not paying taxes anymore. And to me, that sounds a little bit like a registry. So that is kind of something to keep an eye on. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed yet. Nothing has been talked about. Yes, we're going to pursue this, but that is kind of a loophole that people could go after going forward, saying, hey, how about we just deregulate these altogether since you have a registry going on anyways. So that's something to keep your eye on, watch out for, all that fun stuff. So like I said, this H.R.1 will not go into effect until January 1st, 2026. We will still have suppressors in shop and all that fun stuff, but this new process going forward of still doing your Form 4, still having an e-forms, we still do all that right here in-house at OneForce. We do your fingerprints for you, take your photo, we help you do all that fun stuff, but that will not go into effect until January 1st. So obviously there's some kind of intricacies here that I didn't 100% dive into, and some other little nuances. I did just write a blog post that went up yesterday. So that is right online at OneForceWeaponry.com. If you go under blogs, it's the newest one on there, and it's titled The Big Beautiful Bill and What That Means for Suppressors. And I kind of dive into a little bit more there, some of the more official terms. But yeah, I think that about covers the short of it. But if you guys have any other questions for us, feel free to drop them in the comment section down below. Let us know how you feel about H.R.1. Are you excited? Are you one of those people that thinks you would have loved to see them deregulated altogether? Yeah, let us know what you guys think. If you have any questions, also let us know. You can give us a call at any time. Follow us on all platforms at OneForceWeaponry. But thank you guys so much for watching.